Welcome, everyone. This is the PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating Podcast. Here we chat about all things boating with marine industry professionals and enthusiasts who spend all the time they can out on the water.
Hi, this is Tonia Becker, and I'm your host for today's episode of PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating. I've been so looking forward to talking with today's guest. Shannon Dutruch lives in Husser, Louisiana, and she's a bow angler. I have to confess that I didn't know this, but in preparing for our conversation, I learned that bow fishing is one of the fastest growing outdoor sports. It makes sense why people would like it because it's a really interesting marriage of bow hunting and being out on the water fishing. A pretty good combination in my book. So the question I've been dying to ask you, Shannon, how did you get started bow fishing?
No, I actually started with archery. I have a recurve bow that I like to shoot, and I've been doing a lot of trick shots, and then I got into competitions this year. So it started with archery.
And you, when we were chatting and preparing for this, I understand that you won a pretty big competition, or placed second maybe in a pretty big competition, right?
I did. I placed second in traditional archery with my recurve bow, second in the state of Louisiana.
Not bad, my friend. That's wonderful. Congratulations. So what makes this bow, can you explain just the differences in the types of bows for a second? A recurve bow, I'm not quite sure what that is compared to other things.
The recurve bow is just a traditional bow. So there's no sights. There's no, so when you put your arrow on, I instinctively shoot. I've worked hard to try to shoot more accurately. But with my compound bow, I actually have a sight on it. So I'm able to look down and see actually, more accurately where I'm shooting.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, got it. And how did you start this? Have you been involved in archery for a long time?
No, I learned how to shoot a compound bow when I was younger. My dad taught me. But as an adult, my husband actually bought me a longbow for Christmas a couple of years ago. And so I just really picked it up from there and just started doing it. We actually got the kids some bows as well. So it just became a family, thing to do on the afternoons or at night. We would shoot, like glow in the dark balloons and stuff. So we've just made a fun time out of it.
So as you moved to bow fishing, how long have you been bow fishing again? It hasn't been that long, I don't think.
No, I started when I was 40, which is how old I turned this year. It was it was a surprise birthday party. But yeah, I've just really gotten into it this year and just really enjoy it. So we try to go as often as possible.
What was the learning process like? Hitting a moving target with a bow and arrow isn't easy to begin with, but bow fishing seems even more difficult.
Yeah, it took some time to get used to. When you're used to shooting accurately and aiming directly at your target, it was a little hard to get used to being on a moving boat with moving water. And when you look down, the fish actually look like they're in one spot, but because of the angle of refraction of the water, the fish are actually higher up. So you have to learn to shoot under them. And for me, that's been probably the hardest concept to learn because I'm so used to shooting directly at something versus looking at something and then going under it. So I think that was the hardest part, yeah.
Did you start going with guides when you first started learning, or did you have friends that bow fished, or how did you learn in practicality?
Well, we actually started with guides. And for us, it's usually the easier way to go because we do bring our kids often with us, and they help a whole lot. And for the first time, that was definitely the way to go because they actually teach you, how to shoot and how to get it back in and stuff like that. So, but we enjoy going on charter trips. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of help and the captains are usually real excited. You're yelling at you where the fish are at. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And your kids bow fish too, from what I understand. How old are they again?
I have a son that's 12 going on 13 and then a daughter that's 10. She'll be 11 in January.
And they both fish as well, right?
They do. They enjoy it. Yeah, they have a lot of fun with it.
I'd have to imagine the guides. I can only imagine what is first going through these captains' minds when they see, a woman, her husband, two kids, but then they probably realize really quickly that you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah,
The kids do too.
I often wonder, I'm like, they have got to be wondering what in the world is walking this way? What are we about to get into? But we usually always have fun out there. I mean, the kids, they're a blast, and it's a lot of fun.
How long did it take you to learn? I mean, did you hit fish your first try at this? I mean, how long did it take you to kind of get confident?
The first trip, I did not hit any fish, and I was very bummed. So my husband took me, I think like maybe 2 weeks later, he took me back out. And before then I went and bought a bow and then started practicing at home. And I think the next time we went, I was the only person on the boat to get any fish. So I was pretty excited about that.
And are you able to practice at home when you're not out there at all?
Yeah, we practice at home. We have a side by side, and we have bows, and we have a 3D target, it looks like a big garfish, and we'll drive around in the backyard and shoot out the back of it, from a moving target. So yeah, we get a lot of strange looks from our neighbors and anybody else that passes by to go to our neighbors' houses. We are definitely those people. You never know what's going on at our house.
I like it. I like neighbors like that, as long as they're not shooting me. But and the kids have learned this. Have gotten better this way too, I'd imagine, right?
Oh yeah, and they think it's hilarious.
So you go out fairly regularly. I mean, what sorts of how many fish do you, I mean, I know it depends on the day, but I mean, how many fish do you usually catch? Like, what are you usually fishing for?
We like to go for the redfish, but there's a limit on redfish. So we are each allowed 5 per person in the boat that have a bow. And then you can shoot also gar and sheep's head. And I don't believe there's any limits on those, but we always limit out.
Are there, I don't know that you've gotten involved in any tournaments yet, but I mean, are there bow fishing tournaments out there?
Yeah, there are. I'm actually researching now, trying to find anything that's local, what's coming up, what it takes to be in them. So I'm doing my research. I've reached out to different people and I'm asking questions, just trying to get the feel to see what's out there, because I'm a very super competitive person, and I would love to just get out there and see what happens.
Well, we'll definitely keep in touch, because my money is on you when you start participating in these tournaments. These guys aren't going to know what hit them. That seems pretty exciting to me.
I'm really looking forward just to go and have fun and just be out there. Really, I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, the fishing itself it's just so exciting. I can't even describe. We just really enjoy it.
So, what is your setup like? I mean, plenty of people, including myself, aren't familiar with bow fishing. I mean, what gear do you need? Does the boat need to be outfitted in certain ways?
Yeah, so we actually ordered our own boat, but we won't get it until next year. But here where we fish in Louisiana, we're in shallow marsh water. So the boats need to have a shallow motor, or they need to be air driven, which would be like a fan boat or a airboat. And then on the front of the boat, you want to have a lot of lights because you're fishing at dark. So you need to be able to see down into the water. So those are the main things for the boat.
And you, I think, always are fishing at night, right? But you don't have to fish at night. That's just what you choose to do.
Right. That's just what we choose to do. I think there are ways that you shoot during the daytime. We haven't really got into that too much yet. Just it's easier with our schedule, and what is provided here with charters is to go out at night.
Probably the visibility. I mean, imagine like with these big searchlights, like shining down in the water, maybe it's easier to look, to spot the fish, it seems like.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I've heard of different people that have been during the day, and they've told me, what all it takes. And And it just seems easier at night for right now.
So do you use the same bow to fish with that you use on land? Just
No,
for traditional archery? No.
no. I've got quite a collection of bows. But for my fishing, I use a Oneida Osprey. And I really like it because it's very lightweight and it's not real bulky, which is good for me because I'm a pretty small built person. And so when you're out there for a few hours, standing and holding your bow, you want to be comfortable with it and you want to be able to use it really quick. Usually when we go out, there's a lot of action. So the whole time I'm just pulling back, so the bow has to be lightweight for me. And the reel that I use is a Mega Mouth, which is really great because it's fast and it's easy to use. And then the arrows that I'm using are harsh lock, which are cool because they're easy to get the fish off. So you just press a button at the end and they come right off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the deckhands, they like them a lot.
So obviously the reel, you reel the arrow back in, you reel the fish in, etc. Right? Are there specific bow fishing seasons? And do you need a special license for bow fishing in Louisiana?
In Louisiana, we use a regular fishing license. So I have a Louisiana fisherman license. And then the seasons go by the same as the rod and reel, which is all year. But there are better times of the year to shoot. The cooler weather will bring the fish into the marsh. So you'll see more fish that way.
They're looking for warmer water, I would imagine. So let's address the elephant in the room. And I'll start by saying that I've spent a lot of my life and career in heavily male-dominated spaces, my career and just a lot of different places. Have you, but you beat me by a lot in this venture that you're on. I'd have to imagine that women bow anglers are pretty rare. Am I right? Or are women increasingly becoming interested in the sport?
I'm pretty new at the whole bow fishing part. So, as far as going out with charters, I feel like a female does get certain, attention. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just, they want to make sure you know what you're doing, that you know what fish you're looking for. So usually when I first get out there, I'm pretty nervous because I feel like I need to prove that I'm worthy of shooting a fish, I guess. I don't know. Just worthy of being on a boat with a bunch of guys. So, I probably, I guess when I get to competitions, if I ever get that far, I'll see if there's more females. But I think there's a few, yeah. Yeah,
I'm sure that you do have to prove yourself a little bit, but it's I'm sure in short order they understand. Everybody understands that you know what you're doing, and like I said, my money is on you in these tournaments. I think that you'll do really well.
I hope so. Sure. Thank you.
There's a lot to learn. There's always a lot to learn for all of us in anything, right? But the other thing I love is the example that you're setting for your kids. Both your daughter and your son see a strong woman doing these things and think it's normal. It is normal to them.
Oh man, I've been doing so many things since I've run races since they were babies. I do obstacle course racing, and then I started doing archery. So they've been there. They've been by my side for all of these crazy things. So for them, this is just another thing mom does. But yeah, I try to talk my daughter into doing things that other people aren't doing, such as archery, because you get out there and there's not a lot of females that do these things. And it's not because we can't do it. It's just because I guess we've never been introduced to it or, just don't have the time, whatever it is. So I'm trying to keep her shooting, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's just, for many of us, we haven't been exposed to these things. It never really even occurred to me to do this. And I don't think anybody was, I grew up fishing and hunting and so forth. And but certain things, it just never really occurred to me to do. There was just no, other women or other girls doing this, and it just didn't occur to me. Like I said,
I don't think I've ever seen my mom fish or anything. My dad just, I guess he didn't raise me to be too girly. I guess I don't know, but he taught me, all the things I needed to know to be strong, and so I guess,
yeah.
I guess I'll blame him.
My dad too.
I'll blame him for creating this monster. Yeah.
My dad too, I think.
My husband blames him too.
Yeah. No, my dad too. I think there's 3 girls in my family, and I think, my dad was certainly thrilled to have 3 girls, but, liked to have buddies to do these things. So I was always and I liked to do it. I liked hanging out with my dad, and, shooting and fishing was always a lot of fun to me, and still is. So if someone wanted to get started bow fishing, how would you recommend they get started?
I would definitely go out with a charter for the first trip. They're so knowledgeable and they're helpful. They come with their own bows and the boat. So, you're already set up for that. They'll teach you how to use them. And then when you're out there, you have a deckhand. He's helping you get fish in if you catch fish. He's helping you reel in, because it's a little bit, at first it's a little overwhelming because it is so fast paced. And then when you come back in, they'll clean your fish for you and, have everything ready for you. So it's really easy that way. And you learn a lot because they teach you the whole time, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, stuff like that.
Was it helpful to you to have the land archery experience, or, did that really not matter a ton?
I think it did help me, because I already had a pretty good understanding of, shooting. And like I said, I'm a pretty instinctive shooter. So to say that I really aim a whole lot, I hate to say that because my husband will get on to me, but I shoot instinctively. So, I think already knowing how to shoot did help me a lot. Yes.
That makes complete sense to me. I haven't done it in recent years, but I used to shoot trap with my dad a lot as a younger person. And that's a lot of instinctive shooting too. And I think maybe it should have been more scientific, but I always did better when I just knew where the just shot instinctively.
Yeah. I feel like when I start overthinking, I start doing things that will throw me off. So yeah, I agree with that.
So great. Well, I the last thing I really wanted to ask you was, where are some of your favorite places to fish?
We stay local. We love the local people here. We go to Hopedale and we'll fish with Cajun Experience. The captain, Stefan, he's really, really good. And then, we'll also go to Port Sulphur. We got, Bow Fishing Unlimited out there. They're really fun. Captain Jason and Captain Daryl always make sure we have a good time. But the fish, in both areas are just really great and, top-notch people. We do have a friend that has a boat, so if we take ourselves, we'll also go out to Hopedale again, because it's a little closer to the house, because we always have to travel about an hour and a half just to get to Hopedale, because it's on the other side of New Orleans, and we live outside of New Orleans, so not too far from the house, but far enough.
And the other thing that you do that I was super impressed with is that you run marathons. I'm a marathon runner too, so I knew that we're going to hit it off right away. And you were scheduled to run the Marine Corps marathon this year, and it was canceled. Are you?
I'm still bitter.
I know. That's tough.
This is the second year.
I know. And they canceled it far enough into the training season that you had been training for months, I'm sure.
Yeah. I was up to 16 miles this last time. Yeah. And I normally, when I do those marathons, I do it with a charity with Ainsley's Angels. So I train pushing a wheelchair. So, a lot goes into it. So when they call it off, it's really heartbreaking. Last year I continued and went ahead and did it virtually, pushing a wheelchair with someone in it, of course, so they could get their medal as well. But this year I just my heart was broken. I just called it off myself.
That's incredible. I mean, not only running a marathon is hard enough, as I will attest to, but I've never done it pushing a wheelchair, let alone pushing a wheelchair with someone in it. That's crazy. That's so wonderful.
Oh, it's a lot different, but I mean, it's so fun. It's so rewarding. And to see them, how excited they are. It's really amazing. I did do a half marathon 2 weeks ago. They needed another runner to to push an athlete rider. So I did do that one. So I did get to do something with my training.
That's incredible. You're a very impressive person, and I'm so glad to have gotten to meet you and record this episode with you. So it was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I am honored.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating podcast. Are you thinking about upgrading your boat's navigation? Or are you interested in the latest marine technology? Check out our wide selection of GPS navigation and fish finder units from leading marine brands like Garmin, Humminbird, Ray Marine, and more at PartsVu.com. Use the coupon code PVTalksNav for 5% off your order, a special perk for our podcast listeners. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for boating knowledge, to keep in touch with the PartsVu community, and for special sales and promotions. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and check out the show notes for the coupon code just mentioned, more information about PartsVu and the products we offer, as well as our boating blog, the PartsVu Xchange. And a big thanks to Mend for performing the original music featured within this podcast.